Our last ad is from the yes side. And let me get back over here. So we are, let's see, this ad, you all see this one?
What could happen in Ohio if issue 1 doesn't pass? Abortion banned with no exceptions for rape or incest. And women who miscarry could be denied emergency care. So vote yes on 1 to stop Ohio's extreme abortion ban. What could happen in Ohio if...
Well, I've done that all 3 times now, so I'll know not to do it for the next one, right? Okay, Dr. Gallo, can we start with you again on this one? How did you rate this?
Sure, I gave it a 4.5. I don't know if you can see that, because it's mostly true. I mean, if you start off with an ad, what could happen in Ohio, you really can say anything after that, right? So technically, I would say technically it's true, completely true. But it suggests that if issue 1 weren't to pass, that we would go back under the 6-week ban. That's what it's suggesting. And I think that seems very likely that that's what would happen. So I think I think the word could is doing a little bit of work here, right? What could happen? But I think what it's showing is what we could expect would happen. Best predictor of future is to look at the past, what happened. And so a Republican controlled government is going to, it seems likely that they would reinstate that 6-week ban, that ban that currently is on pause. It's likely that it would come back into play.
Dr. Mack, what did you think?
Let's see. It shows, yay. I gave it a 4. The reason why I gave it a 4 is because yes, it is mostly true. And I was thinking about what I heard versus what I saw. And so while we heard what could happen, we saw abortion banned across the screen. And so if you're an uninformed voter, you might think, oh, well, if I don't vote yes, that means currently abortions aren't allowed in Ohio, which is a little bit different, right? So we know that the 6-week ban is on pause. So that means we're back to our original stance of it being somewhere in the 20-ish weeks threshold for being allowed to have an abortion at the latest, right? And so if you're not aware of that and all you can think about is what you saw on the screen is that if I don't vote yes, then no more abortions, then that is a bit misleading. But outside of that one thing that I have an issue with, everything else said was factual. And so I agree with Dr. Gallo that the could allows for a lot of wiggle room.
Right. Jonathan, what about you?
I gave it a 4 also. I think if issue 1 fails, at this point, as Dr. Gallo says, the 6-week, the so-called heartbeat law is on hold. But whatever happens in the Ohio Supreme Court in that case, if the legislature would reenact that or something else, but we're talking about what might happen, not necessarily what will happen. Now, there was a second statement in this ad, and I will defer to Dr. Gallo because she's the medical person here. But the claim was that people would not be able or would be denied miscarriage care. Now, we know that there have been some well-publicized incidents to that effect, indeed, including some in Ohio. But I'm not sure that the denial of miscarriage care is a necessary consequence of the failure of issue 1. I think the question would be, what do the abortion regulations or the abortion restrictions that are on the books or that would be on the books, what would they say? And part of the reason that people are getting denied miscarriage care is a concern that the existing regulations are sufficiently unclear that some health providers have been unwilling to risk the draconian legal sanctions that might follow if they are found to have violated those restrictions in the course of treating a patient. So that's a little bit ambiguous, although I think the point is, it's a legitimate point. Whether in a 15-second ad or a 5-second piece of a 15-second ad, you could get those sorts of nuances, that seems like a bit unrealistic. But I think that there is more truth in this ad than we saw in either of the others, even though there are some fuzzy areas in this ad.
Dr. Gallo, did you want to say a little bit more about the potential for people who are miscarrying to be denied emergency care should issue 1 not pass?
Yes. So, that line between what is sure, true. It's true that if somebody came in, maybe the law would be written in such a way that they could be provided care for a miscarriage, but it's really hard to think in practice how that would work. People's medical situations are complex. If you're coming in and you have a patient who maybe has started a miscarriage and needs help in finishing it, it's an incomplete spontaneous abortion, and they need help in treating it, that clinician might be concerned if they're facing the threat of incarceration. If they perform an abortion, they might decide not to do it. So it's really hard to say that we're going to come up with every medical circumstance. We're going to write this into law and tell providers how to behave. We just can't do it. And so what will happen, it'll turn out that providers will be conservative in their interpretation because they don't want to run afoul of the law. They don't want to risk losing their medical license, something they've worked all their life for. And so we know this. We can see this in other settings, both in the United States and in other countries. What happens when you try to legislate medical care? Doesn't work. There's a reason that the professional associations are in favor of issue 1 and other laws like this, because it doesn't work in practice to try to legislate medical care. You're going to end up with tragic circumstances. And we've seen this already during the short period where the 6-week ban was in effect. We saw tragic examples because we can predict that this will happen.